Hey, welcome everybody, and thank you for joining us for Lunch with Lucy. I'm Kate Romillard. I'm on the marketing team at VHT Studios, and I'm here as your MC, co-host, whatever you want to call me. Just a couple of things before we get started with our guest. Just need to mention we do have everybody muted. I think you figured that out by now. If you have a question or comment, just add it to the chat or the Q&A box. We'll answer those as we go. We'll save time at the end as well. You'll want to stay until the end. We'll announce the 5 winners of the free lunch provided by VHT Studios. You must be present to win. And that is all. So I'm happy to introduce our host, Lucy Edwards.
Hello, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for joining us and spending half an hour with us. We have an amazing guest today, Michelle Damico. She is a 20+ year veteran in PR and in media, and I personally work with Michelle on blogs and articles. So she's very helpful, knowledgeable, and fun to work with. And today we will discuss how we can bring you to another level with publications, with blogs, and what else has to be done. And during our session, we're going to have some questions. So please reply, because we will discuss them right away. It will be very interesting to know how you are involved in publications. So Michelle, welcome to Lunch with Lucy. How are you, Michelle?
Lucy, it is great to be here. Thank you for having me.
So it's going to be a really great live conversation. And the first question I would like to ask you, Michelle, why do companies in the real estate industry come to you? And what do you offer to them? And do you work mostly with brokers or agents? Who are you reaching?
I am typically working with companies that are in a growth mode, and they realize that they have to do more besides advertising to attract the attention of prospective clients or customers. They could be brokerage firms. They could be companies like technology companies in the real estate industry. They want to reach out to their prospects or their key stakeholders. And they realize that when you're quoted in the news, or if you're featured in a podcast like this one, you're considered an expert. And that's independent validation that you're smart, that you're great at what you do. It's a great credibility boost, and it makes you look bigger than you really are when you're quoted alongside other companies.
No, that's absolutely, that is wonderful. And I personally think it's extremely important. And I know from my experience that blogs are very important, and it actually help you grow and help you reach your clients. And when you say you help them make the news, do you mean you are bringing them to TV programs or newspapers or some online advertising? And again, like podcasts, where do they start, and how they should think about their future presence?
Sure. They normally think in terms of where you want to reach your audience, because right now there are so many places online or in print where you can share your news. It depends on what your own business strategy is and who are your key target audiences. And let me give you the example of VHT Studios. I've helped your CEO, Brian Baldoff, make news in Realtor Magazine, also online. I've also secured interviews on cable TV for Brian in business programs, Chicago newspapers on the front page of the Tribune, RIS Media, Inman News. It all depends on what the news is and who you want to reach out to, and who those target audiences are.
You're muted, Lucy.
Please use the polls and answer the polls as we go, because we would love to know everything, all the statistics that we can get before the end of our talk show. And when we speak about real estate agents, I personally often value their brands. To me, and I've been talking about it a lot lately, the importance of your brand and your reputation, and be consistent on brand and reputation. what about your articles and your blogs and what you do with agents? Does it help them elevate their brand?
Oh, it's just another way to strengthen your brand, Lucy. When you are quoted in a news outlet, it proves that you're a sought after expert. It proves that you know your business, and it proves that your insights and your opinions are valued by that media outlet. And that outlet could have tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of followers. So it's boosting your brand. And it also gives you the chance to say, I was quoted by the Tribune. I was quoted in the New York Times. Or look, my client's listing is in the Miami Herald. Those are all wonderful things that impress a client. And it also gives you content to share with your customers, your prospects, and your followers. Everybody right now, the name of the game is content. And if I can show my client that I am quoted in my local news outlet, or that the local radio station has a real estate program that they want to feature me on, that makes me look like a bigger expert in my client's eyes.
Exactly. And image is so important. So your brand, your image, your reputation, it's basically one and the same. And that elevates it, and it helps you be noticed and also easier to find and to approach. So I think that is all very, very important points.
And one other thing, Lucy,
Yeah, sure.
One thing that is worth mentioning here is when you're quoted in the media, your Google juice just soars. You get you get a better ranking on Google. So if somebody is searching your brokerage firm or searching your real estate company or technology company, and you'll appear because you are quoted in that news outlet, you have better ranking on Google as the result of being quoted in the news.
Yeah, and exactly, I agree with you. And also on your Google business page, you can post your blogs and part of your articles and links to your articles. So that's exactly what you are talking about. It's also very, very important. And before we go to our next question, Kate, do you mind if we can see what replies are we getting so far on our form?
Yes. So the first question we asked was, is PR and making news part of your business plan? 62% of you said yes, which is great to see.
That is great.
Yeah. And then the other 38% said no. And then we just asked if they've ever contacted a reporter. Only 18% said yes, and 82% said no.
So there's a fear factor here. People don't know how, or they don't want to, or they're afraid. Perhaps they feel, oh, that reporter doesn't want to talk to me. He only wants to talk to the big shots, right?
And that's why we're here today, Michelle. Absolutely, because I do think it is very important, and it doesn't hurt to ask. I personally love Food and Wine magazine. So I thought from the marketing point of view, because they have really great advertisement and marketing in the magazine itself, besides their recipes. So I've been trying to invite the editor to my Lunch with Lucy show, though it has nothing to do with real estate, but it has a lot to do with marketing. They're not replying to me yet, but I'm persistent, and I email like once every 3-4 weeks and remind about myself. So I'm sure I will get through sooner or later. We can always try, right? So that's as far as we get.
If I can give you some advice, Lucy,
yeah.
Comment on their stories online. Go online and leave a comment about a story, or go on their Facebook page and leave a message that says, I just love that recipe. And so she will see you in many different platforms and see that you mean business in trying to get her attention.
That's a good idea. Thank you. No, I was just emailing. That's all I do. I just email. I try to change my email content, but it's basically just an email. But that is a great suggestion. So I will definitely follow that. Thank you, Michelle.
You're welcome.
And then let's talk about some examples. Give us some examples about the company and the news and how they can promote themselves, not just to pay for advertisement, but also just bring some important information to the audience.
So PR can take a variety of forms, but the main thing is that you have to have news that your key audience cares about. Lots of times people will say, I don't have any news. Well, you can't give yourself a haircut, and you don't, and the same applies to PR. If you don't know what news is, you don't know whether or not you have news. And so you need someone like me to ask you questions. I'm a former reporter. I ask a lot of nosy questions. And
Oh, yes, you do, Michelle. Yes, you do.
by asking questions, you can assess, well, I've not seen a story in the local outlet about what you just told me. You should contact a reporter and share that insight, because they're not writing about it. I ask the questions first, and then I try to determine, okay, the news that you have to share, should we issue a press release about it? Do you want to have an event? If you're having an event, how can we generate news about your event? Do you have a new product launch? Let's get out a press release about that new product. Have you hired a new CEO? Let's introduce the CEO to your marketplace by doing a lunch with Lucy. Is there a new acquisition that you are about to announce? Are you moving to a new headquarter? These are all examples of news. And my clients will turn to me basically to begin with a press release and other messaging about why this news is important to them.
Yeah, that is, I believe you, Michelle. It's very, very valuable. And all of us have some kind of news. You can have the news about community, or about some events for your children that are taking place, maybe some hockey games and soccer games or whatever else. But yes, I agree. If you think about it now, since you were mentioning it, I can see how many points you can reach with the news. That's great.
One other thing, Lucy, I noticed, because I have real estate agents who are friends and relatives. Two of them were awarded big awards because of their growth in business last year. That's a news release to put on your website that talks about how successful you are, how people are coming to you to buy and sell properties. And that shows that you're an expert, even if it doesn't go to the news media, and in many cases it should. If it stays on your website only and shows that you're an exciting, dynamic professional to work with.
Or your office just won some kind of award within the company. So maybe it's not you alone, it's collaborative efforts, but still it's your office is the one who is ahead of the game, and you would like to share it with everybody. Besides social media, because I do think that social media is important, though you can post your blog and your articles on social media, but besides that, I think it is very important to reach other directions.
Yes.
So we have another poll. Did we have any polls from the previous one?
Yes. Just give me a minute. I'm going to give about 30 seconds more for this one, and then we can review the last two.
Sure. And meanwhile, so Michelle, how big are you on social media with using the same article, let's say on a blog, or if you were interviewed in a podcast and then you post it on social media? Do you do that?
Yes, and you can post it on all of your social platforms. And right now, for example, Lucy, you and I have talked about the discussion that we were going to have, and it spurred a whole bunch of ideas for me. So I am creating a blog post on my own website based on the questions that you and I are talking about today. And then I will link directly to Lunch with Lucy if they would like to see the video version of my answers. Another thing you could do, if you are indeed quoted on Lunch with Lucy, is take excerpts and put those excerpts, continually for a few days on Facebook or on Instagram. There are so many ways to make graphics look wonderful right now on Facebook and Instagram. I could take a quote out of my conversation with you this week and excerpt it for the entire next week on Facebook and keep pointing back to your interview.
Before we got our talk show going, Lunch with Lucy, I was doing podcast. That was also very successful. It can get expensive by far, especially if you do it rather often, but it was great success to have that also. And then I guess you can use the information and just spread it everywhere, like on social media platform and a blog and everything else.
Sure. And I'm seeing in the chat, Lucy, that Brandon is a contributor to Realtor Magazine and Inman News regularly. So Brandon has, when he says regularly, that's pretty impressive. That means that people at Inman and at Realtor respect his views, and he's got a great story to tell.
Thank you, Brendan, and thank you for joining us. So appreciate it. So what's the response, Kate?
Okay, so we asked if you follow industry trade media publications regularly, and 50% said always, 32% said when I'm not too busy, and then 18% of you said not really. And then we went a little deeper with that question and asked which ones you actually follow. And it looks like the number one publication are your local publications, which makes sense. And right under that was Realtor Magazine. 78% of you follow that. Then 70% follow Inman News. After that, RIS Media. And after that, in the last place was The Real Deal.
No, that's great. And Real Deal, by the way, is really great. And they don't cover all the areas. I believe they are in New York, Chicago, Florida, and California. So maybe that's one of the reasons as well. And and their articles are really in relations to the areas they are covering. So that I totally get it. It's just that I went to their conference last week and it was amazing. So that's why I wanted to mention them. But yeah, that's awesome. So how you position yourself? So reporters want to call you and get your opinion. And also, what if someone that had the best sale better, and they are doing the sale for a celebrity, for example? Do you think the media will reach out to them directly? But then, how do they know that you have this particular listing? So how you can go about it?
Sometimes reporters will know that the agent was representing somebody like Jennifer Lopez when she bought her new home. So they might, the reporter might contact that agent. But very often, you have to make the first move. If you want to make a connection with a reporter, you should be reaching out to them, and you should not feel that it's an intimidating thing to do. It can be very easy, as Brandon can probably attest to. The first thing to consider is, if you want to reach out to the reporters that you follow closely. If you have a favorite at Inman News or at the Chicago Tribune, please contact them. Leave a comment on their story online. Reach out to them on Facebook. Nearly all of them are on Twitter. You can comment on their stories there. Very often you will find their email addresses on their publication. And if you can't find their email address next to their story, you can typically find it in the Contact Us section of a news website. Subscribe to their publication. I cannot emphasize enough how we should be supporting these journalists by paying for their content. And if you like them the most, you'll be able to follow what they write about on a regular basis. And if you see a story they've written about and you have experience on that topic, comment to them or email them. For example, today the New York Times had a story out called, "Will Real Estate Ever Be Normal Again?" It would be great for anybody who is watching us today to go to that story and leave a comment and say, "I do think it's coming back to normal," or "No, it's never coming back to normal, and here are examples why." You might not get quoted in that story. It's already been published, but that reporter may find what you have to say interesting and might say, well, thank you, Kate, for commenting. I'm also working on a story about X. Do you see anything related to that topic? So yes, that is exactly how I've had conversations with reporters, by commenting on things that they've written about. They love to see that you understand their beat. You understand what is most interesting to them.
And also, I would like to add to it, it doesn't have to be, we only have so many Jennifer Lopez in the country. It can be just a very unique property. In our conversation yesterday, Michelle, I mentioned we did a property in upstate New York that was 100% round. It was just like basically one round house with hardly any walls, or like petition walls. It was a very weird house. I don't think I would like to live in it, but it was definitely interesting to see. So if you have something unusual, you can also reach out to reporters, right? And just say, I have this unusual 100% round house with not one single wall all the way from the floor to the ceiling inside. And maybe that will that will bring someone's attention to you as well, and you get to be published with the photos of the property and your headshot, right?
Yes, and I would add one more thing. Go with your instinct, because I agree with you. If I was that agent representing that roundhouse, I would definitely contact a reporter. Here in Chicago, Dennis Rodkin of Crane Chicago Business, who is not only in Cranes, he's on WGN Radio, he's on WGN TV. So you've got a three opportunities to get his attention. He recently wrote about a house in Indiana that was all glass. It was in the middle of a field in Indiana, but it was all glass by a famous architect. And yes, that kind of a story will definitely interest him. He also wrote a story this week on the front page of Cranes about rats overrunning neighborhoods in Chicago. Now, if you're an agent and you're in a swanky neighborhood and you're seeing rats too, he would probably love to hear that. So there's lots of ways to talk to reporters and share your.
I hope we have better excuse to reach the reporter. And speaking of reporters, how can you find those reporters in different markets?
Well, first of all, Google is always your friend. Google their name, and if their name is John Smith, Google John Smith at Inman News. If you go to the Inman News website or the Crane Chicago Business website, they often have a staff listing. Sometimes they include their emails, sometimes they include their phone numbers in that staff listing. Don't be afraid to call them and leave a message. Or if you can't find them there, go on Twitter or Google their name, because very often they are freelancers and they have their own freelancing writing page that they own themselves. And you could find their contact information there. There are multiple ways to find them these days.
So we're getting close to the end, so I will be very quick. One more thing that I always bring up when I go to office presentations, meetings, and so on is the marketing strategy and the importance of it. And do you have a PR strategy when you work with your clients?
Absolutely. And Lucy, any good PR person won't come up with any proposed idea, proposed tactics, unless I know what the strategy is first. Who are you trying to, here are the types of questions that people should ask. A good PR person should ask before they begin. Who are you trying to reach? What is your message? How are you presenting that message? What actions do you want your clients to take, your prospects to take, your audience to take? How will they learn about this? What results do you want to see? I won't put together a PR program until I get answers to those questions. And then how prepared are you to do a media interview? Because the last thing you want to do is blow the opportunity by saying something that you later regret. So
yeah, and videos are very important, Michelle. I so agree with you. Yes, publications and blogs, but videos are also incredibly important. Not everyone feel comfortable in front of the camera, which is okay. You can do the voiceover and you can do some scenery, but something, and then you can also talk about the news while you're doing that. But there are so many ways, and that can be part of your strategy. You don't want to be in front of the camera, do not. Do what you are comfortable with, otherwise you are not going to be good at it, right? So I think that is very important. Maybe you could, the way I hear you say it, you start backwards. You start from the back and then you are bringing it to the strategy. You are asking yourself questions, what you want to cover, what is important for you, what you want to get out of it. And then you get to the front. Last, very short question, Michelle. So after they've made the news, what happens next?
Okay, I keep talking about content is king. Content, content, content. I've got a great story. I've been quoted in Inman News. I make sure my friends, my family, everybody in the world sees my news. And if I happen to be in an online publication that also has a print version, like the Chicago Tribune, I have somebody take a picture of me with my story that I'm holding so that I can post that photo of myself online, on Facebook, on LinkedIn. And just keep finding more and more opportunities to share your news, because it has a very long tail and will help you in attracting audiences.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you so much.
We have a couple of questions from the audience I just wanted to get to before we close out. Stephen had a great question. What's the best way to balance the privacy of your clients with your own business need for positive publicity?
Well, very often my clients don't want to be quoted by their company name, or I'm assuming he means he's an agent and the clients don't want their photographs shown in a publication. That is a very difficult one, because he is in the business of selling location, and he's being told, no, you can't identify this location. I don't have a good answer for you on that one. But I have been in situations where a client will happily be quoted, but he doesn't list the name of his organization.
Yeah, I feel like I've also seen articles where they do feature the home, but they don't talk about the address. They just feature the broker name or the agent name, so that if somebody is seriously interested, they can reach out that way.
I've seen pretty much all real estate stories that profile a magnificent house. They rarely give an address.
Right.
But everybody in the neighborhood knows exactly where that home is.
Yeah, representing the celebrity, that can be tricky. And usually, in some cases, I know we had to sign paperwork not to disclose with anybody what you've seen, what you photographed, what kind of floor plan you measured. Yeah, we've done that in the past, and that is, again, that there is no way you can really publicize that.
Right, you cannot risk that client relationship.
One more question. This one's kind of specific from TJ. Who do you recommend reaching out to when creating a new division of your development company? Is there like a certain branch of media or publications you can think of that would be a good suggestion?
There are in many publications, there's a real estate reporter. In the bigger publications, there's a reporter who covers commercial real estate. And so I would target or just the plain old business department of a newspaper. And unfortunately, many newspapers or online outlets or business publications that are online, they may not have a specific real estate beat, but they will be interested in news regarding your development, because everybody's interested in development news because of the impact it has on a community. So
I'm sorry, Michelle, go ahead.
That's it.
But in the past, we were approached as a marketing company. We were approached by Architectural Digest, asking us for unique kitchens and unique decks and so on. So they asked us for photos because they needed some substance to their magazine. So if you reach out to them in advance and you share with them about the new development and maybe some new technology. We just did a really cool video in Chicago just a few days ago. It's an apartment building in downtown Chicago, and the apartments are like 350 square feet. I mean, it's tiny, and the Murphy bed is electronically opens up. So my question was, if something breaks, you're going to sleep on the floor. But the amenities were spectacular, fabulous. So that's why, like something like that, if you share it, if you have and that is a rental building, but the amenities were superb. So let me tell you, if you have something unique like that, you can definitely reach out to other magazines and say, listen, that's our new development. And I think it's really cool and unique, and the attention to detail is one of a kind. Yep, you will be there.
One last question, because this one's really interesting, and I want to know what Michelle has to say about leaking information yourself to the press. What do you think about that? Is that a good idea?
I don't do any leaking unless the client approves of it. You cannot go against the client's wishes. And honestly, leaking means you're doing it on the sly. You're doing it secretly. I do not recommend sharing anonymously information or asking a reporter to go off the record with you, because there are just way too many times when you cannot trust that situation. I don't recommend leaking anything unless the client wants you to do so. Always you have the client in mind first. He's paying the bills or she's paying the bills.
Love it. That's good advice. Okay, we need to wrap up. We're over time. Thank you, Michelle. This was super interesting. We've never covered a topic like this before, so I thought it was great. And I want you to share once more where people can find you.
They can find me at michelledamico.com, MICHELLEDAMICO.com. I am also on Facebook as Michelle Damico Communications. That's the name of my firm. And I am happy to have a conversation with you. So just go to my website and click on the Contact Us, and I'll happily schedule some time to talk.
Last show of the year will be on December 15th. We'll be speaking with Paul Boomsma. He's the president and CEO of Leading RE. We'll be kind of doing a 2021 review and look into next year. So you'll definitely want to join us for that one. Very special guest there. So we'll be posting that on our site, sending out invites in the next few days.
And I also would like to ask you, please, let me know what is interesting for you today. Who would you like to see at our talk show? What subject you would like us to discuss? It's very, very, very important, because it's all about the audience. And if we are not bringing any value, that's really, it's a waste of everyone's time. So we wanted to make sure it's fun, it's interesting, it's engaging, and it's something you really want to know. And Kate and I, we're working on it very hard to make sure that we have only the best of the best, and someone who will bring unusual recommendations and suggestions, like Michelle today, talking about the media and the magazines and the publications. So looking forward to hearing from you. Thank you, everybody.
Yes, and you'll get an email tomorrow, and there's a survey link. So you can write down suggestions if you have a topic or a guest for us. We're planning our plans for next year. So we're all ears. Please tell us everything. And that's all.
Thank you, everybody.